What's up? What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, and welcome into another edition of MVP Sports Live right here on either Twitch.tv or YouTube. I am joined, as I always am, with my beautiful co-host, Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
But you may notice something. You're like, Ricky, like, you and Dave are in the same, like, you're next to each other, but you're above. There's someone below you.
Hey, down there.
No, other way.
No, he's that
way.
But
we're also joined
down here too. He's all over here.
He's in the ether, basically, because
that
you
other
can't
guy
see
here.
him. But we're joined with our other beautiful co-host, Soapy Muffin. Soapy, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Soapy's like, I'm not used to being over here. I'm over here on
or at least down here.
Under here. Down there.
Basically, the way MVP has it is entertainment is the yellow brand and sports is the black brand. Because that's what our logos are, black and yellow. But yeah, Soapy's going to join us. What?
NXT, baby.
NXT, baby.
NXT, black and yellow song, which is even better of a banger.
I mean, one logo, we have the white text with the black logo. The other we have the black text with the yellow logo.
You were in a big NXT phase when you made these.
No. Originally, the MVP, it was supposed to be MVP Nerd, was the entertainment channel. And if you forget, Dave, I sent you and Sean at the time different things. And I was originally going to go off of the Joker colors. So it was going to be a green text with purple background. And Sean didn't like it. Sean was like, I don't like that. So then I sent the black with the yellow. And Sean's like, I like that better.
Yellow and black, good color.
I was just trying to find a good color because black and white is just like Dave, like, see, yellow and black's on my shirt. But we got a jam-packed show talking basketball, talking a little bit of football at the end. Tom Brady, I guess, doesn't like shaking hands. We're going to dive into a theory that I have about that. And also the Hall of Fame. The inductees haven't been announced, but the list has been put out. So we're going to kind of look at that list because Peyton Manning's on it. So you know he's getting into the Hall of Fame. Spoiler alert right there. Before we get into everything, though, if you have not joined the greatest community on the internet, you are behind the 8 ball. That's the MVP Discord. You can do that down below in the description on YouTube or ! Discord into Twitch chat. And Dave, I don't know if you heard this because, like you said, you were a little busy during the game's live show. Just going to leave it at that, a little busy. If you scroll down on our page now, underneath there is a widget in our About section that now has everyone who's online in the Discord at all times.
Nice.
So you can now see how many people are online in the Discord, talking, just being on.
I take it.
I love it. I saw it on someone. I can't remember what Twitch channel I was watching. I saw it and I was like, we got to fucking have that. But best community on the internet. Go ahead and join it. Thank you, Soapy, for putting that into Twitch chat. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids is how you do that. Twitch chat, the link is already there. Patreon. Get you that on YouTube. That link is down below. And of course, thank you to our Patreon sponsors, Pat Hill and Philly Sean. We're also on Twitch, where you can also throw us a sub to support us. But we're live every Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/MVPvids. And we're also on YouTube at MVP Sports. You can follow, sub at both places, because there's some stuff on YouTube that you're going to get that you're just not going to get on Twitch. And vice versa. Yeah. No, most of the stuff on Twitch makes it. But yeah, vice versa. Yeah, actually, pre-show. You get your pre-show shit. Because that doesn't make it to YouTube. So good point, Dave. But guys, jumping right in, the first big news of today, the first one I just want to mention, because we're not going to give a big, long talk on it, but I want to mention it happened. BI signed his extension, so he's going to stay with the Pelicans. Just wanted to mention that right off the top. But another name that I wanted to dive into first that did get his extension, Bam Adebayo. And the thing that's kind of circling with this discussion is not whether he earned it or doesn't deserve it, nothing like that. Everyone is now wondering the main question of what does this mean for A, the Miami Heat with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and 2, does this mean Giannis is not going to be on the board even for the Heat to go after? And I have a little snippet here from an article on ESPN written by Kevin Pelton, Dave's favorite guy, for having Christian Wood and No, you gave him shit for having Christian Wood as the third best free agent in this class.
Yeah, he can be
BI.
wrong, but I think he's a name out there I trust at least for news and information. I just don't agree with the player rankings because obviously they're. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't. I can't.
I believe the exact quote was "should be fired." Was that how mad Dave was?
From that job, he should be. I mean,
but,
he shouldn't be fired from all his jobs, but never rank players again.
Kevin Pelton said this. It said, the first important issue for the Heat is whether Bam achieves the certain necessary to boost his salary in the first year of his extension from 25% of the salary, a projected $28.1 million, to 30% of the cap, $33.7 million, by either making an All-NBA team or winning Defensive Player of the Year. Adebayo finished 5th in the All-NBA voting for the 3 center spots last season, and also finished 5th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. So both are reasonable possibilities. If Adebayo is at 25% max, Miami could potentially clear significant room to offer Giannis a max contract starting at the same $33.7 million by stripping down the roster to just All-Stars Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. That would be painful, forcing the Heat to trade rising star Tyler Hero, as well as first-round pick from this year Precious Achiuwa, and renounce the rights to restricted free agent Duncan Robinson. Dave, I'm going to go to you first. You're the one I usually go to first. Does Bam's extension for sure tell us that the Heat are basically saying, we expect Giannis to stay in Milwaukee and we are out of that race, locking our guy down long term?
I'm changing back to fire Kevin Pelton.
Okay.
I was back to #fire KP on that one.
Okay.
It's just bad. It's speculation, but it's bad speculation.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things I had heard from my sources, it sounded like my sources. Giannis and Bam are actually good buddies. They have a good relationship, and it was actually Giannis liked the fact that Bam was given this deal ahead of time where, hey, they're not playing around, they're not toying with the guy. They know his value out there, and they're going to pay him. The thing that everyone was already thinking was, okay, if Giannis is to leave this team, it's not this year, it's next year. So the problem is, due to contracts, if he signs a Supermax this offseason, like right now, he cannot be traded for 1 year, which would line up to the fact that, hey, this is your 1 year timer. You have to get there. Otherwise, if he doesn't sign and trade, it's only a standard max. You can no longer get the super max at that time. So he can only get a standard max, and then he would be re-eligible after that standard max and the year served on his new team for a super max. So with that being said, I think this is just hey, we're going to take care of our guys and show Giannis that if he wants to come to a professional organization, we take care of our players, we work hard, and we're going to win a lot of fucking games. And I think it's again, the tone setting and the professionalism by Miami there. And hey, if the time comes and they have to make some trades, they have to make some moves, I would not be shocked. This is a team that absolutely is. Eric, I saw that. Yeah, I stumbled a little bit. Pump the brakes. How about you pump the brakes? It's not happening this season, but I think that you can't look out for if the Bucks struggle in the playoffs yet again, that next offseason, there's a chance that he would ask out. But by all signs right now, it does appear Giannis is 100% locked in for this season with the Bucks. So I think a lot of the speculation can kind of calm down for a while. We won't know what he is truly feeling until next playoff.
Yeah, and I mean, the big thing in this, and I'm glad you brought it up, was this is all aiming for next offseason after this year. Giannis is not going to be on the Miami Heat this year. But it's like you said, the Bucks to me have already kind of stumbled in a sense to get Giannis players on this team, because yes, they got Drew Holiday, which is a good ad. We're going to see whether that does enough in the playoffs to make Giannis think, can I win here? Because yeah, I know Giannis has said publicly the whole stuff about love Milwaukee, want to stay here. He's saying the right things. He's being the good guy, the baby face. But if he's never going to win a finals in Milwaukee, I expect him to do what every other great player has done and said, I'm going to go where I can go win a championship because I want to get one of those. Those rings look real fucking sweet. And that's going to be after this year. The way I say the Bucks have already stumbled is the whole Bogdan situation. Just how that all came out and fell through. And it's like, could you put all of it on the Bucks? Probably not. There are probably things back and forth that happened, but the Bucks kind of, it looks bad to where it's like, we could have added that, and now it's almost like the Bucks, I kind of feel like, might be in a scramble of like, well, Drew Holiday is not enough to go to the finals. In my opinion, is not enough to go to the finals. Soapy, I'm going to ask you, are the Bucks going to be able to do enough this year to show Giannis, hey, we're trying to help you, and is that going to keep him in Milwaukee long term, or could the Heat be players next offseason?
I think this offseason showed they are willing to move on from pieces to try to get Giannis help. Mm-hmm. Obviously, once again, the Bogdan thing did fall out, and it's one of those things that I think Drew Holiday is an exceptional grab for them. You know, it adds maybe not like a second or third best player, but, you know, Drew is an incredibly solid piece. Mm-hmm. I'm happy now he's going to be on a good team, and he's not just going to be, you know, wallowing away in New Orleans, but it's one of those things that I think it's also something of, I think after that trade fell out, they should have been trying to move for another piece as well. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of those things that it almost felt like they kind of sat on their laurels at that point of like, well, fell out, we tried, whoop-de-doo, we'll just watch everyone go. Of where, you know, you had to move on from someone like George Hill, which George Hill is an exceptional player. You know, obviously you had to move him to get rid of Bledsoe. You got to do anything to get rid of Bledsoe at that point. Yeah. We saw Bledsoe was not the greatest. And I think I think it was not like a desperation move, mm-hmm. but it felt like a showing Giannis you are willing to move this roster around. But now I think it's one of those things that like, okay, who's left on this team that you're willing to part from? Like, obviously, I know originally they tried to trade Dante DiVincenzo, Robin Lopez, and I forget who the other person is.
Ersan.
Yeah. And obviously, I think, two of those people aren't on the team anymore?
Yeah, they had to waive Ersan so they didn't get hit with the full cap amount of his contract, which would have been about $7-point-something million, mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah, and Rolo turned down his deal. He's like, no, I'm choosing where I go. So it's one of those things of who's left on this team to possibly attempt to move. Like, obviously, for instance, DiVincenzo, you know, he has value. Mm-hmm. Once again, I think he's one of those players that you can get something for him. I don't know if it's to the caliber you want. Because, mm-hmm. like, for instance, I've always been really high on DiVincenzo. Yeah. But I almost wonder what package could you put together to get anything? Because I'm trying to think who they could even move for.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it depends on if you think that Chris Mid is a movable piece, because if you do Chris Mid plus, that gets you in the very serious conversation for a star. If we do see a team like the Wizards imploding in front of us, that does beg the question of if a Chris Mid Bradley Beal deal, mm-hmm. it would be interesting to see.
Well, like what type of star are you willing to get to? Because like it's funny you bring up the Wizards. I had a different team come to mind. If the Rockets finally decide, well, you know what? Like right now, they're in talks to trade Russ. They want to trade Russ. But if they get to a point where they're like, well, fuck it. We do want to trade, like, we're going to trade James Harden. If they get to that point, would it be smart for the Bucks to go, hey, let's try to put a package together with Chris Mid and other things to try to get James Harden? You're shaking your head. I'm not saying it's a for sure fit, but it's like, what kind of star should they go get? Is a John Wall the perfect piece here? Because you see Drew is more of a 2, John at the 1. Is James Harden, like, is it just get me a star like a James Harden? Like, I don't care how it fits with Giannis. It'll fucking work because they're both great. Like, what should even be their plan? Like, to find that star?
I think with the only problem, I think with a Harden deal, and obviously this may either be me putting Harden's value way higher or Chris Mid's not high enough.
Yeah.
I don't know if they could put a package together that would compete with other teams as well. Because, like, for instance, we already all speculate on what the Nets could offer.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good fucking package. it's one of those things that, like, what would the package be for not Giannis, for Harden? It would have to be Chris Mid. It'd have to be DiVincenzo, and then what? Do you just throw in other draft picks? Like,
but they already gave up a large package of draft picks to the Pelicans. That's the problem. They don't have the capital to compete for a James Harden or for a Russ, who I think Russ would be a horrible mistake anyway. They don't have the capital. That's why, like, throwing in your second best player is a big risk. You know what Chris Mitt is, though, at this point, and like, you know what he is, you know what he isn't. Now the question is can you leverage that to get someone who is a potential? Is there a better fit out there? Is there just a role like Chris Mitt on paper is a perfect fit next to Giannis because he's a floor spacing, oversized wing who's got good defense, amazingly efficient offense. Like, he's everything you think on paper you would want, but whatever it is, he's not enough to push you over the edge. Now, they're hoping that the upgraded Drew from Eric Bledsoe will be that push they need to get over the hill. But, like, I don't know if you go after one of those guys who's in a tier above Chris Mid and you try to make a gamble there, and it could pay off, it could not. You don't know, and that's why it's a gamble at the end of the day. But they are limited because they are resource capped basically in the draft for the future. So it'd be very hard for them conceivingly to pick up on a big name without giving up a couple of big names.
Here's a name that I'm thinking about, and it just popped into my head basically looking at their starting lineup, where basically Giannis, Drew, Chris Mid, and Brook are locks. All four of those guys. And like, because of how Giannis plays, where yes, technically, if like you look at Spot Rack or you look at his position, like what it's designated as, it says power forward, but Giannis plays to me more of like that point forward role that we've seen, to where could they put a package in the trade that I put through just to see if it would work for a John Collins to pair next to Brook, to where it's like, this isn't a big name, but it's someone we can bring in without getting rid of Chris Mid. And basically the deal I have is the DiVincenzo, DJ Wilson, who you were going to give up in the other deal, and then a future pick, which would have been their next future pick that isn't this upcoming year, is 2026. Like, would that be enough to get a John Collins? And even if you don't re-sign him, it's really a thing of just getting the team in place this year to get as far as we can in the playoffs. Because even when we get to the Eastern Conference Finals or the finals and lose, that alone might be enough to show Giannis, hey, we can compete. We're not going to just get bounced out in the second round like we did the year before. And, JD brings up, what about Capella too? But I think John Collins is more movable than Capella, or the one to be moved out of Atlanta.
Yeah, my main worry with Collins, and obviously don't get me wrong, dude, I am the biggest Collins fan ever. Absolutely love that man. I'll defend him to the day I die. I don't know if he's a super good fit next to Giannis, and the only problem is one of those things. Collins is extremely effective in the paint, like, and he's developing that outside shot, and it's coming along. But it's one of those things where, like, do you want to relegate him to be more of an outside shooter? Because, like, we've seen, obviously, it's on a bad team, so it's got an asterisk next to it if you want to consider it. Of like, he's a 20 and 10 guy when he's in the paint. We haven't really seen him in a role of where, like, okay, you take a back seat, because, like, the closest we've seen to him being a back seat is being the second best player on the team.
Yeah.
Like, could he drop down to being fourth and still be as effective as he is? That's kind of where my worry comes in. Obviously, once again, I may also be overvaluing him as well. Who knows?
I think it's a fair thought. Again, his numbers are gaudy, but you're right. They played in one of the most talent void teams in the NBA last year, and all they cared about was offense. It was very clear from the Trae Young lineups. It was just like, hey, we're going to try to outscore our opponents. We don't really give a shit on the defensive end, which, again, maybe people are overlooking his growth on the defensive end and, want to magnify his offense. But again, as a fourth option on a team, it'd be a very different role for him. I don't know. Maybe we're just overthinking the situation and trying to force a star there. But I think this Bucks team, it literally, I hate to say it, it's just on Giannis. He's got to find a way to get better at shooting the basketball. If he can do that, he can take them to a championship 100%. Like this roster with Drew Holiday, Chris Midd, Brolo out there, those three guys as his supporting cast, absolutely good enough to get him to a NBA Finals if he can be a complete player. We saw, his excellent supporting cast carry the Eastern Conference Finals winner in the Miami Heat last year. It was truly a Jimmy Butler team, but we've got this wealth of depth, and like role players matter a lot. Now, I think this is a team where you just have to be like, Giannis is the 2-time MVP, defensive player of the year. He's the best player in the league right now. You need to get him to be even better somehow, get that shot knocked down, get his free throw percentage raised up. That's all it takes. It's really just, can Giannis grow? And that's why I'm like, you've already mortgaged your future. I don't know how much more you can squeeze out of this. Yeah. I do like their bench edition, though, for Jordan Nwora this year. I think that was an incredibly smart pick late. So, again, I think the team on paper right now, Eastern Conference Finals, I do question matchup-wise. Again, they could hit a bad matchup there and get stuffed early, but like it's really, if Giannis can knock down a percent from outside of 12 feet, he gets really dangerous. Like he's already one of the best players in the league. He gets insanely dangerous once that range opens up, and people have to be legitimate about guarding him on the outside.
I'm not saying this to open up this conversation, but the one nugget from what you said that made me giggle is when you said best player in the league, because I know there are at least two fan bases, Dave, the LeBron stands and the KD stands, that are already in the comment section typing that out, saying that both LeBron and KD are better than Giannis.
One's coming off of a life-changing injury, and the other one is a better basketball player overall. There's no argument, but the MVP award did go to Giannis 2 years in a row now. So I just want to make sure he gets his respect. Again, I wouldn't have voted for him 2 years in a row. I believe last year I voted for James Harden. This year I would have voted LeBron James, but it's not my vote to make,
Yeah, they haven't given you a vote yet. Sooner or later, Dave will get a vote for the MVP. The next thing we'll move into, and Soapy, this is right up your alley. Pistons free agency. Like, this is the time I'm going to let you go first. This is basically just the moves that they have made. So they brought in Mason Plumlee. They've brought in Jeremy Grant. Let's see, looking at the depth chart.
Just read the roster. It's a work of art.
Right now, the starting lineup, and this is ESPN's depth chart, has Derrick Rose, DeLon Wright, Jeremy Grant, Blake Griffin, and Plumlee. Obviously, Killian Hayes and Isaiah Stewart from the draft. Seku's still on the team. They signed Wayne Ellington that happened before we started the show. Zana Musa came in from a trade with the Nets. They've signed Josh Jackson to bring him in. Jahlil Okafor, another center. What is that?
You forgot our other draft boy.
Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey.
Yes.
Basically, but from free agency, Plumlee, Okafor, Josh Jackson's another, he's a wing, not a big. I'm trying to think, wasn't there another big? Is Grant the other big?
He's a Grant count.
Okay.
Yeah, Grant counts as a big, kind of. Because he can play the 4. So
I mean, they got him second unit as a 4. But Soapy, you're the Pistons fan. For those of you who don't know, how should Piston fans speak for all Detroit Piston fans? Soapy, how should they feel about this free agency for D-Town?
See, dude, it's tough, and I do want to address the one thing. It's been bugging the absolute hell out of me. Stop saying we didn't try to sign Christian Wood. If he wanted to come back, he would have came back. What a shocker. If the man went on Instagram Live and asked people, hey, where should I play? Does that not show he probably doesn't want to be here? Trust me, dude, I would have loved Christian Wood to have been back. Don't get me wrong. I basically turned into the biggest Christian Wood hater overnight. But it's one of those things of, I don't get why fans don't realize he probably didn't want to come back. Because he, on Twitter, even months before, he had been talking about he wants to play for a winner. He wants to win. He wants to contribute to winning. We suck. We're not gonna be winning. I don't see why that wasn't already in the wing for people of being like, okay, he's not coming back.
You have entered.
It was wishful thinking on my part. Yeah. Well, we'll start to rebuild.
Yeah.
We're in the same phase we were before from the early 2000s, where we try to compete still, but we're garbage.
But here's the thing, and I'm just going to throw this out, and this is why I think it's different this time with Detroit. I don't think Detroit is trying to compete. I think Detroit is doing, and Dave, I think I was talking to you about this, they're just basically throwing shit at the wall, saying, we're going to bring in all these different veterans. Don't care what position they play. Fuck it. 4 bigs, 5 bigs, a million bigs. Don't give a shit. We're just going to throw contracts out there because they're not bad contracts to where it's like, wow, why? It's not, no Timothy Mozgov contracts have been handed out by the Pistons, but they're bringing in enough guys to where it's like, okay, if they play up and have value, we can flip them for something. Or, oh, they've got value, they can be a veteran leader on this team as we are going through a rebuild. Like, I look at people ragging on the Pistons offseason, and I'm for one on the outside, a Bulls fan, looking at it going, I don't think the Pistons are having that bad of an offseason. Like, at least you got something for Christian Wood and didn't just let him walk. Looks at Danny Ainge. Dave,
we gotta fit some slander in.
I'm trying not to. Can I have a day this week without going on a Celtics rant, man?
I gotta throw it out there because it's true. You can avoid your rant. That's not what I meant to throw out there.
This is a hybrid approach, I believe. This is the like half New York Knicks answer of last year was just sign a bunch of guys to contracts, see who's valuable by midseason, move them for more picks. We are rotating through. We're churning through the idea of if you get enough players on your team, you'll find the ones that fit eventually. This is very much a I wonder, like, I'll have to go through the front office trees if if the Detroit Pistons GM, Soapy, you may or may not know, was a disciple in the like Sam Hinkie or the Presti tree. Because I would not be shocked to see him from either one of those. I want to say Presti. He had some kind of tie, maybe to Presti.
Talking about Weaver?
Yeah, he may. Because I know he came from Denver. That's about as far as I know.
But
so if either of those are connected that way.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I think there are a lot of guys on this team who are valued across the league. And I would not be surprised if they can continue to show they're healthy and able players that they will be moved on from for new picks and new guys to try out. The only thing I was kind of shocked by was
You're spot on, Dave. I'm looking here from the article the Pistons put out when they hired Weaver.
Yep.
Weaver, 52, joins the Pistons after spending the past 12 seasons with the Oklahoma City Thunder, including the last 3+ years as the club's vice president of basketball operations. Previously, he had served 8 seasons as vice president and assistant general manager with responsibilities that included coordinating player personnel matters, NBA draft preparation, free agent planning, and summer league roster construction. Weaver has been a critical part in the Thunder's success.
Yeah. Love it. And it tells a lot of the story of like where he's coming from a like game plan standpoint of like, I've got a roster that I need to work over. I need to expose myself to expose this team to as many players as possible to find out who really kind of sifts through the mess. And that's the guys you can move on from, the guys who stick it out, happy to work, hard workers, guys who are going to fight for those minutes. That's the guys you want on this team long term. Very much a trust the process almost. Somewhere between the process, OKC, the Knicks, like all of these teams have had different iterations of this, and it feels like a hybrid approach of like, hey, he's learned his lessons from those teams. Like you said, the contracts, there are no Mozgovs here, but there are some big contracts that are still on the books. So we'll see what happens. The one I did say I was surprised about was the waiving of Zaire Smith. I know they picked him up via trade. I was kind of like, cool. I will continue to root for Zaire Smith. He's had an incredibly tough life in the past 3 years, and I wish the best for him, and I hope he gets a chance to play basketball professionally again. He's working his ass off to get back into elite shape again, but like I figured he would have been a guy who would have got some run time with this team. Maybe it's just kind of like a friendly, like, hey, you can go find a spot because we don't have minutes for you kind of a situation. But yeah, I think that, we're all looking at this roster going like, Derek long-term, who knows? Like this year, sure. Next year, who knows? He's got the deal. We can trade him if there's a great deal for him. Blake, Would love to see him healthy. If he's healthy, he's a top player in the league, and someone might want that for value. Let's flip him. Jeremy Grant, we heard the promise of. He took this Detroit deal on a bigger role on the team, which means he's not the seventh option, which means I expect to see him to get a serious amount of playing time and some highlights in this offense. Really like that. And again, they killed it in the draft. Killian Hayes, Sadiq Bey was a wonderful 1-2 pickup. I think they made a lot of really smart moves. Even the backup guys who they brought in, like I low-key still really like Zan and Musa. A couple of years ago, Hawks officially signed Gal. Oh, great for them. But yeah, I really like Zan and Musa. I think long-term he's got potential to be a sharpshooter off the bench, smart player from Europe. But yeah, like people want to be like, oh, it's dumb roster. The only thing I didn't like was the Isaiah Stewart move. But we'll have to see. I think Ja gets another chance to play.
If you're entering a rebuild, it's not a bad, like, that's the thing where it's like, when they made it, I was also with you, like, oh, I wouldn't have made it there. But like, after seeing the moves that they have made, trading Kennard, bringing in all these veterans of like a kind of prove it kind of deals, to where I'm like, they are entering a rebuild. That's why, like, I look at it and like, Soapy, I'll ask you, Dave mentioned Blake Griffin. Derrick Rose is another one. Like, when's the clock moving for like those deals to be done? Because I think they get done. Real
quick, I want to jump in here because I don't know if they're rebuilding.
Okay. I think they are. I think they're entering a rebuild.
This feels like that retool bullshit word that I hate so much, because Detroit, one of the things that, and again, I don't know like how much ownership has changed over the past couple of years, but one of the things I had always heard was, and this was from like when they first went and made the Blake deal, was they would rather have a shot in the playoffs every year rather than being a top contender or being a rebuilding like bottom guy. Like they're happy to collect the extra pay from being a playoff team. And I think that this is one of those things where it's like, if everything goes right, this is a team who could contend in the playoffs in the East. I mean, everything would have to go right. But like they literally, healthy Derrick Rose, healthy Blake Griffin, Jeremy Grant, DeLon Wright, like these are not bad players. These are guys who are all very good at the game. So I think this is it's a 50-50. It's everything goes right, they can go for a playoff run. Everything goes wrong, well, obviously it's a rebuild now, and you look at your options and move on.
I mean, it depends. To me, the big thing is the only reason why I say enter a rebuild is you fucking traded Luke Kennard, and he would have been somebody to.
Luke Kennard, they don't want to pay him.
Well, it's not just the paying him, but like if your goal was to make the playoffs, for sure, you keep Luke Kennard on this team. Why? And like for me, I think that they're a better team with Luke Kennard. Am I wrong?
They got back Sadiq Bey and what was the other piece out of that deal? Zan and Musa, I think, from that deal, right?
I think so. But like even those two guys, like I think Kennard helps you more make the playoffs. If you're looking to make the playoffs this year and retool,
not paying Luke Kennard allowed them to go make that play on Jeremy Grant. It allowed them to go get Plumlee. It allowed them to go make moves happen. DeLon Wright, another great low pickup. I don't think that he's better than Jeremy. I keep confusing the Grants.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from.
Jeremy Grant and Plumlee solve a lot more problems than Luke Kennard. I think you're overvaluing our love for Luke Kennard for his impact on a team.
I get where you're coming from, where you're like the ownership wants to make it, and Soapy, maybe you as a Pistons fan, give us yours too. But like for me, I look at it and I go, the whole thing of, oh, we want to make the playoffs, we want to compete because we don't want to be a bad team. To me, it doesn't matter what the ownership wants. They hired Tom Weaver. Tom Weaver's in charge of this, to where it's like, with his past 12 years in OKC, has OKC necessarily like, yeah, I know there was like this year where they actually competed, but they had a Chris Paul. I think Blake Griffin is on the move. I think it's not tomorrow, but I think this year by the trade deadline, Blake is on the move. Like the wait and see if we can compete is like the little bit of the beginning of this season. It ain't going to pan out. And Tom Weaver, I think, is going to hit the button and say, I can't pass on this draft class. I cannot pass on having, and I know people say, oh, this next draft class is supposed to be the deepest draft class that we've ever seen. So maybe that plays into, hey, we can make the playoffs and still get someone. But I'm sorry, if I have a chance to get one of the top guys in this upcoming draft of what we're already seeing now, I don't want to miss on that. I don't. I don't want to miss on it at all. And I feel like that the Pistons, in my mind, are entering a rebuild. Soaps, what do you think?
I want us to enter a rebuild, but I will go on record right now and say Tom Gores is the worst owner in the NBA. He will not let this team be bad. And the main reason why I don't think Blake's on the move this year, as much as I want him to, as much as a lot of Pistons fans want him to, because that's a lot of contract that's being eaten up by a player who literally sat out 99% of the year.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that recently the Pistons moved into a new arena, the fact that Tom Gores has gone on record and said, we want to compete. It pains me as a Pistons fan to say, obviously we traded my boy Luke Kennard. I still cry about it. I still have the screenshot saved when his bio on Twitter said Detroit Pistons. I still cry about it. But it pains me to say we're just going to be retooling. We're going to probably aim for a player in this class. But it's one of those things that a lot of people forget. If Griffin was healthy, we would have been trying to compete. That's the whole thing. We view this team differently because we didn't see Blake for 90% of the year. And when we saw him, he sucked. I think it's one of those things with all the moves we're making. Obviously, we may be trying to get draft capital back. But once again, I don't think we're going to get enough back for someone like an upper pick. Obviously, we're probably just going to suck enough to get up there by ourselves. But I more or less think Rose is here to stay because he's gone on record before saying, he doesn't want to keep moving around. He doesn't basically want to be a journeyman. So if Rose wants to stay, I'm A-okay with him mentoring Killian Hayes. I'm fucking all for it. If I get Killian Hayes to be mentored by a former MVP, God bless. Because I hope to God Killian Hayes pans out. I'm fine with Isaiah Stewart. He's going to need to grow on me a little bit. It's one of those things where I think it's more or less just, once again, another project. If he pans out, cool. If he doesn't, Obviously, we could have taken someone else there, which if, so many people after him pan out, I think that's going to be something that is going to be incredibly valuable. And, especially sad for Pistons fans, because then we're going to have another situation of wow, you guys took Isaiah Stewart over this player? Yeah, we're going to have basically Luke Kennard 2.0, but... Oh, sorry, I got to get all this shit out. It's been built up over days.
Get it all out, man. Get on the soapbox, no pun intended, and get it all out.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't think anyone's brought up Saben Lee yet, our second-round draft pick. I think he may be the reason why Zaire Smith got waived. I think it's one of those things they may have a lot of faith in him, especially after going back and watching some stuff in college. That man could score. I think it's one of those things of we may be hoping he's a diamond in the rough for us. I want this team to rebuild. I know Troy Weaver, Tom Gores are never going to watch this. Please, for the love of God, just rebuild this team. We suck. Pistons fans don't want to be stuck in mediocrity. We want to go back to the days when we were actually good. I don't want to sit through another fucking Josh Smith, Greg Monroe Drummond lineup. None of us want to. Hell, that happened in my lifetime. I don't want it twice. No one deserves to experience that lineup again. But I think I want Blake to be moved. It's probably not going to happen, though, because if Blake comes back healthy, you bet we're trying to compete for the 8th seed, then get swept, and then get a 15th pick and miss on that one, too. But I'm fine with this offseason. I think it hasn't been bad. We've gotten a lot of good signings. I think Wayne Ellington also recently signed with us as well. I think it's a really good low-key sign-up. I think it's bringing in a lot of these veterans are also people who could work with our young guys. Obviously, D. Rose with Killian Hayes. I think Saben Lee can learn from players like Wayne Ellington. And obviously, I'm not trying to say oh, they're going to make Saben Lee a GOAT. Or Killian Hayes is going to become the greatest because of that. But I think it's having these veteran players work alongside our young, new people is something that is really going to be valuable, especially with, I think you have so many different centers that Stewart can bounce things off of. Each of them having different types of experience of where, for instance, Plumlee kind of fits what he could be defensively. Obviously, that sounds bad, but like Plumlee's kind of that, like, I'm just going to put my body in the way guy. Where, like, I think we've seen people dunk on Plumlee a lot. So it's one of those things where he puts his body on the line. I think with Ja, he kind of has a similar offensive game as Stewart, so he can mentor him that way. I think that's more of what they're going for with a lot of the centers, as well as having just be like, hey, they get traded. It's more of Stewart is able to learn underneath these players who are similar to him in the way of, like, they can tell him, like, hey, listen, like, this is where you should be on the court. This is, Jahlil Okafor is the fucking old man of the NBA at, like, 23. But having that sort of player that can teach you that offensive system and how it works in today's NBA, I think can help him, especially, Stewart does have potential to have a mid-range, potentially a 3 at some point. Who knows? Hopefully it happens. But I don't hate this offseason. I think it's more or less of, I want to see where this team goes forward. I honestly also will go on record, Tom Gores, please sell this fucking team. Like, we memed the ever-living hell out of James Dolan. Mm-hmm. I'd have James Dolan a million times over one of our Gores.
I was just going to say...
Not say things we can't take back here.
Oh, no. I'm keeping that. I stand by that. First episode on the podcast where I'm the third man, I'll say it right now. Tom Gores is the worst owner in the NBA.
You were on the Discord, Mock. This is episode 2.
Yeah, I know, but...
It's kind of a one-off thing.
Yeah, but I mean, he was talking basketball with us.
Yeah, it's just, I want that to be known of sort of, and I don't want to compare it to the same situation Bulls fans were going through, because it's not the exact same.
We were held hostage there for like 20 fucking years.
I was even going to say, when you brought up D Rose, I was like, my first thought was, Bulls fans, don't get mad at Soaps, because I know there's a huge movement to get D Rose back in Chicago.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, just the main reason why, and I want to almost use this as a way of, like, people pay attention to how shitty of an owner Tom Gores is, because he's going to fuck this team up. As a Pistons fan, it is sad that I have to literally look at the fact that, obviously, Drummond's trade value wasn't that high to begin with. He refused to move Drummond when we found out we could not win with him. He forced Van Gundy to trade for Blake when Van Gundy has said he didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
It is literally the fact Tom Gores is incompetent. He doesn't understand the roster we have cannot compete. It's one of those things that, like, I'm not saying, like, oh, do like a fire guard packs situation, but more or less of, like, because Tom Gores ain't selling this fucking team. I'm stuck in mediocrity till Tom Gores dies or sells the team. But it's literally just Pistons fans, we gotta just ride it out. We gotta be sad that we're probably about to waste Killian Hayes and trade him for a bag of chips. And go back into being a shit team afterwards. Sorry, rant over. So,
Dave, any final thoughts before we move on?
Just gonna toss out there if Isaiah Stewart is your Luke Kennard again, Alexei Pokusevski was drafted right after him.
Damn, dude, 2 projects back to back, baby. Let's go.
I'm just saying, like, that would be really unfortunate.
Yeah, it's painful
because if he hits, oh. Good God.
So let's move on from the Pistons. What we're going to do, because I'm looking at the time, is...
Oh, sorry for eating up so much time, by the way.
No, we ran for a while and you wouldn't get a chance to talk.
The Heat's one also went for a while, too. Great conversations. I want to get to the 2 that make sure we get to the 2 topics we didn't hit yesterday, the backloaded one. So we're going to talk about the Raptors for a little bit. And... basically, the thing is here, the 2 big moves that the Raptors, in my mind, have made. First, VanVleet signs. It's a 4-year, $85 million contract. Also, they got the biggest addition in the Aaron Baines fan account coming to town. 2 years, $14.3 million for the Bane train coming to Tampa. It's not just Tampa Bay now. It's the Tampa Baines Raptors down there in Florida. Soapy, I'm going to go to you first. Mainly this is about Fred VanVleet, and the biggest question that I had, and I'm not saying that I disagree with his move, but was it right for Fred VanVleet to stay with the Raptors, or should he have looked to move on like one of the ones we speculated, the Knicks? Should Fred VanVleet have moved on, or was this just a, hey, I got my money, I'm staying home, good decision for Fred?
I mean, hey, dude, his dad came back from the grocery store. He's back, baby.
He went to go get cigs. He went to go get cigs and actually came home.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I think if he went to the Knicks, that would have been terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer that Fred VanVleet should have stayed here. I'm happy he did because he's still on maybe, depending on how people's opinions of the Raptors are, they may or may not still be a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things of, he still gives them that chance to be good. Because it's one of those things of, obviously we got to see how Siakam, maybe not rebounds, but, like how much better can Siakam get? Can he be like the guy
mm-hmm.
for this team? Or obviously, it's been Kyle Lowry. And that absolute dump truck of an ass of his. Sorry, I have to just bring up Kyle Lowry's ass at least once a show now.
The dump truck.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that with him staying on this team, they still have a really good point guard rotation of him and Lowry.
Mm-hmm.
I think. And then obviously with the Bane signing as well, you don't exactly fill in the role of Gasol and Ibaka, but you get a person who's pretty comparable. He can step into that role. Maybe not exactly, as good.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I may or may not have said off the show that one time that, Aaron Baines is better than Marc Gasol. But,
Was that Celtics Baines? Was that
no, this year
Baines?
Bubble Baines, baby.
Bubble Baines.
Dude, you can't tell me that we're going to have a bubble and I can't call him Bubble Baines.
Dave, it looks like you're hating on it. Looks like you're hating on Bubble Baines.
There are a couple of statements that you have made that will not fly with our Toronto/Tampa Bay fans. The fact that you're like, I guess you can consider the Raptors still, what was the phrase used? Like, competing or something like that. Like, well, yeah, they're still competing. They're still gonna be like a top 4 team in the fucking East.
Yeah,
top
but
5.
like, in the one thing,
I was gonna say
the one thing that Dave, before I get because I was gonna branch off into what you thought about it. Like, the thing though that Soapy's right about is, yes, they're gonna compete. Raptor fans can get mad at the wording of that all they want, but the one thing he's right about is if the Raptors are going to win in the playoffs, it ain't Fred VanVleet, it ain't Kyle Lowry that needs to show that he can put the team on his back to. Like, Fred earned this paycheck. Fred played up. Like, some people may say it's an overpay for Fred, but like he's been saying from the start, bet on yourself. He bet on himself, he got paid. Kudos to him. Siakam now needs to show that if there's a playoff series, that he can step up. He's the one that I think the spotlight is on, because going into last year's playoff, they were like, they asked Kyle Lowry straight up, well, what if he can't? And Kyle Lowry goes, well, I guess we're going to learn. And if not, we're going to make them learn the hard way. And that's what happened. They got bounced from the playoffs. So, like, for me, yeah, they're going to compete in the regular season, but can Siakam step up in the playoffs, put the team on his back? Because he should be the number 1 on this team.
Should he?
I think so. I think he should be the go-to guy. He's to me, I would say if you were saying who's the best player overall on the Raptors, Siakam's the guy that they should be saying he should be the best guy when you think of that. Not Fred VanVleet.
The problem is last year Kyle Lowry was still the best guy.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Is that like?
I think so. Dude, I think it's a problem.
Yeah, I'm basically stepping out of the shadow of last year's performance where he got to play next to Kawhi Leonard, the MVP of the finals, the guy who just was the best 2-way player in basketball.
Oh, I know.
Like, when you get to play off ball from that, your offensive stats get helped out. And I understand that he performed well without Kawhi on the floor. That helps his case, but like, clearly this offense needs to be retooled with that void of Kawhi Leonard. Yeah. And I think they didn't do a good enough job. I'm not blaming Siakam for this entirely. I think this is partially on Nick Nurse. I think Nick Nurse didn't go out of his way to retool the offense to work with the skill set of his current players.
Okay.
I think they were able to lean heavily on a player like Fred VanVleet, who, like you said, he earned this contract. He had a really good performance in the playoffs. I think he put up just shy of 20 points a game, like 7 assists, 4 boards on literally 40, 39, 84 shooting splits. Like, you can't really ask for much of a better playoff performance from your starting shooting guard out there. Like, he was excellent. Oh, bye Soaps. Yep, there you go. So yeah, you can't ask for a better performance out of a starting shooting guard from Fred VanVleet out there. So I love what he's done. And who's to say that he's not the guy who's going to take over this team? Who's to say Fred VanVleet doesn't show up next year and drop 24 a night? Like, I think you putting this on Siakam is you projecting that, like, well, we saw what you were 2 years ago now with Kawhi Leonard out there, and you looked like you were ready to take that next step. Why didn't you take that next step? What if he's just Miles Turner in it? And like, this is who Siakam is. Siakam's like an 18-point a game at the top end kind of player who can get you boards, who's got athleticism, who can defend damn near any position on the floor. Yeah. And like, they've just got two really good versatile wings, an OG and a newbie and Siakam. But offensively, they're going to end up leaning on their guards a little bit more. They've got good depth at the guard position off the bench, assuming there's a re-sign there. I didn't check with the Norm Powell status. But like, I think that this is a team where maybe they won't get, that big star roll out of Siakam. Maybe he's just not that guy, and that's okay. What if OG takes a step forward again? And last year was a big move for him because he was out there defending 1 through 5, and he could fucking shut people down. But like, you got to have more of an offensive game, or you got to scheme for it. And it didn't seem like their scheme, like, they were unselfish with the basketball, but they didn't run set plays to force the ball through a Siakam, to force the ball through OG. It was like, balls in your hand, Kyle. Balls in your hand, Fred. Yeah. Make shit happen. It's on you guys.
The reason
those are the players, it felt
the reason why I put the expectations I did on Siakam is because the Raptors made me. And it's one of those things where I looked at right before the playoffs, I was sitting there and it's like, I am just taking what the Raptors were telling me. They interviewed Nick Nurse before that playoff series. They interviewed Kyle Lowry. They interviewed Fred VanVleet. All of them have the same meshes. They asked them, they're like, you don't have Kawhi this year. Who's going to step up? Every single one. Siakam. Siakam's got to be the guy. And that's where the Kyle Lowry run, where I said, where they're like, well, what if he doesn't? And Kyle goes, well, it's going to teach him the hard way. Like, the Raptors were telling me this.
Drop a stat here because I forgot how truly abysmal. Just for context, when I mentioned Siakam being an 18-point guy in the playoffs, he was actually a 17-point guy this past playoff run. Because of note, he shot an abysmal 18% from three on nearly 5 attempts a game. He had a 2 of 13 performance against Boston. Yeah. I mean, like, that murders the shooting percentage. Like, that is, I don't know if that's uncharacteristic. Like, it's below his average, so it's uncharacteristic. But that was abysmal as far as the shooting splits go. So like, I'm just gonna put that out there of like, matchup wise, clearly not ideal.
JD calling him the mild mango.
But yeah, back to you, Rick.
It's like that. I was just like, it's not something to me. It's like, oh, now Kawhi's gone. It's all on you. I was listening to the Raptors. I was like, okay, this is what the Raptors are telling me. This is what they think, which then goes to the point, Dave, like you said, maybe then some of it is on Nick Nurse, because if you're telling me Siakam's the guy and you're not going to run plays for him, and it's just going to be like balls in your hand, balls in your hand, balls in your hand kind of situation, well, that's kind of on you too. If you want to make him the guy and he's not a creator himself, you got to go ahead and help him out, run some plays for him. Soapy, what are your thoughts?
I think a lot of it does fall on Nick Nurse. Obviously, we gave him massive amounts of credits for what he did with the Lakers post Dwayne Casey. And obviously, some of that.
Raptors post Dwayne Casey.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Post DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah. Close enough. But it's one of those things that, seeing the fact that he basically brought this offense into the the 21st century and everything is something that is commendable. And it's one of those things that, obviously he showed he could win with a star player, potentially top 3 player in the NBA. Who knows? Depends where you rank Kawhi. But, obviously it's one of those things, he showed his offense can win with that. He should have adjusted to where, like, okay, we don't have someone that caliber. Who do we have? Obviously you have people like Spicy P, Fred, Lowry, Ibaka, Gasol, OG, Powell. Like, you have these types of players. Like, okay, how do I adjust the offense to where now those shots need to be more distributed? Obviously, they do have really heavy guard play, like Dave pointed out, because a lot of their offenses ran through Fred and Lowry. I think it's one of those things that they should have found a way of especially in that Celtics series of when it ain't going in for Spicy P or Mild Mango, the ball may as well not be on his hand at the three. Like, it's one of those things that almost felt like they kept going to a well that was dry. Like, they almost were like, I don't want to say like the offense was one-dimensional, but like we saw the cracks of like, okay, if one person's not playing well, we start seeing where the weakness in this offense is. I mean, obviously, and it's like that for every offense. I'm not going to act like it's only Nick Nurse's fault here. You know, obviously, that's kind of where I say it does fall a little bit on Spicy B. You know, he can't play like that because if you're expected to carry such a burden with the team, you can't be having performances like that. But I think it's one of those things Nurse should have been able to adapt from that and saying, okay, it's not working from three for him. How do we make it to where he's still effective, still involved in the game plan, but the threes are limited because they ain't going in? I think that's something the Raptors should look towards. And seeing, obviously, you know, now with Baines, obviously, I don't think he's going to keep the 3-point percentage he had this year, because if he does, my God, Baines is going to be OP.
Yeah.
But, like, for instance, I almost want to say find a way to play very heavily into Siakam's strengths, while also now having a guy, he's not afraid to put his body on the line. Like a lot of defenders in the NBA, and I'm not trying to do the whole, like, oh, centers are soft these days because they had two of, like, you know, some of the more tough guys, but like Baines isn't afraid to get dunked on. Like, he'll put his body on the line. I mean, hell, we saw John Morant destroy him.
He don't care. He don't care what side of the poster he's on.
Oh, there you go. That's fine.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I think with bringing back Fred VanVleet, you bring back that staple of the offense to where now Nurse needs to find a way. Okay, obviously, you know, with this much pressure being put on Siakam, can he handle that pressure? Or if they still want him to be that guy of, you know, a lot of them are setting up, like Ricky said, you know, where they're all saying, oh, it falls on Siakam, it falls on him, it falls on him. Maybe Nurse needs to tell the other players as well, like, no, it's not just Siakam. Everyone needs to step up. Because if one player goes, like, if one player's not playing up to strength, everyone's got to move. Everyone's got to start picking up pace. And obviously, you know, there's only so much players can do. Like, for instance, we're not, I'll say it right now, dude, I love Baines. We're not getting, like, Suns Baines. We're probably going to get, like, Celtics Baines, which still is not bad. Don't get me wrong, Raptors fans. It's still good.
We got Bubble Baines in Florida. Tampa Bay's in Florida. Like, we could get Bubble Baines.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I don't know if we're going to get Bubble Baines, but...
Like JD said, he stopped Embiid.
If he gets the green light to shoot 4 threes a game, we're in business, man. That's I'm the side.
Oh yeah,
like, I'm with you. I'm all about the spacing he can provide for this team. He's dynamic out there, but yeah, we will see which form of Baines we get.
Yeah. Last thing, let's move over. Last basketball topic we'll talk today: the Clippers. So we didn't talk yesterday. We're going to talk Serge Ibaka. He signs a 2-year deal, $19 million. We also got Marukes, 4 years. $64 million. Patrick Patterson also signs a 1-year deal with the Clippers. There's also rumors that either Lou Will or Pat Bev could be out of town. Our boy Retro in the Discord way early, about 6:30 Central Time. For those of you who don't know, Retro's in Australia, so the time for him is a little different. What does Serge Ibaka bring to this team, Dave? Like, is this the perfect matchup between, like, or the perfect match for Kawhi Leonard and this Paul George Clipper team?
What does he bring? He brings amazing talent. I mean, we're talking about the guy who revived his career at age 47 over there with the Raptors. Like, I mean, he has had an interesting career. I mean, he came into the league highly effective. You know, there's a fake birth certificate garbage. You know, there's lots of fun controversy around who this man is and how old he is. But he's peaked a couple times. Had honestly good season, and I think his time with the Raptors really helped his game and redefine like his spacing setup. And that he is still one of the best bigs out there in the NBA. Blocking wise, he has great instincts, great hands. Knows how to play guys tight. I think he gives them a dynamic defender who can help out against LeBron James, who can help out against a Anthony Davis. He's switchable on the 4, the 5, bigs exactly like LeBron and AD. That's they literally need to get a guy like him so they could play a team like the Lakers and survive. Because without him, there's not a fucking chance. Like, he's gonna help against Jokic. He's their big help. Like, I love this move. I know that they did not plan on losing Trez this year, but the addition of Serge Ibaka, not only is he helps space the floor, he helps defensively, he does everything they want him to do. He's just a straight upgrade from Montrez. I was trying to find a nice way to say it, but like, no, he just is.
That's the thing that, like, you're talking about, like, when you mentioned Montrez, and I'm thinking, with everything that was so bad with Montrez, like you even mentioned in a different show we did, where you're like, there were times they either had to hide him or were like, we just can't play you right now. We can't play you out there because you're being exploited. Ibaka's not going to be that. And also, I think, is this also a good move because it's somebody Kawhi trusts, and Kawhi has a former relationship with from their time, although it was very short, in Toronto. Towards, like, they've played together, they've won a championship together. Hell, they were even the what it do baby moment. Who was right next to Kawhi when he said that? Fucking Serge Ibaka. Like, these guys are buddies, I would say, off the court. Now, the interesting thing with Ibaka is on Instagram, everyone's like, oh, he's going to the Nets. He's going to the Nets. He said he's going to the Nets. And they signed with the Clippers. That, to me, was interesting. I'm like, oh, I'd rather go play with Kawhi and the Clippers than go play with Durant and Kyrie. And I'm glad you threw out Jokic, because when you were like, oh, get past the Lakers, although I think the Clippers would have beat the Nuggets if it wasn't a bubble situation, I was going to say they got to get past the Nuggets first, Dave. They proved they couldn't even do that.
You never know, 1 through 8 or now 1 through 10. So what do you think? What do you think Ibaka adds to this team? Or do you think the re-sign of like Marooks is a bigger deal?
I think adding in Ibaka is really good, because obviously one of the biggest problems, and obviously, you know, the new coaching staff is going to affect this as well.
Good point.
You no longer have to hide your big man. You don't have to be like, ooh, who do we have guard Jokic? Because I really don't want Trez doing that. Like, that's, I think, the biggest thing with it as well, of the fact that you have someone who's like, okay, I'll guard Jokic. Granted, is he going to lock him down? Maybe not. Who knows? You know, time will tell. Yep. You know, time may tell us he won't. Time may tell us that he'll shut Jokic out. Yeah, it's one of those things that I think, obviously, Marooks Morris is, incredibly valuable to this team. I just think Ibaka is so much more impactful, because remind me if I'm wrong with this. Did they re-sign, or is Zubac still on the team?
Yes, he is. I was going to bring him up, actually. Yeah, he's on the team.
Yeah. So you now have two centers that, like, granted, you know, am I going to trust Zubac to, like, stop, like, Anthony Davis? Maybe not. But, you know, someone that, like, I don't feel like, ooh, how do I plan my defense around hiding him? It's more of a, okay, how do I help him while he's trying to stop him? Because now I think it's one of those things that you don't have to worry about hiding as many people. Because, for instance, when Lou Will and Trez were on the court, you don't have enough players to hide two players. Like, that's just what it is. And now I think moving on from one of them, obviously, I fully agree with Dave. I think this is an upgrade. Granted, is Ibaka as good of an offensive player? No. But once again, you don't need, basically, not supernovas of offense, but, like, you don't need two only offensive people on your team. I think it's now you can run interesting lineups of, like, do you have a more, like, offensive-oriented bench, but then also run Ibaka with them to where they kind of have the, okay, we'll filter them into the paint of Ibaka. Is Ibaka as good of a defender as he used to be? Debatable. Probably not.
Very good. You know, but I mean, you bring up a great call there as far as, like, the balance on that team with the offense and defense and the lineup configurations, because, like, they could go jumbo if they're playing a team like the Lakers or like the Nuggets, who want to run out with bigs. You know, say next year that the Nuggets get all wild and crazy and MPJ's out there at the 3 or something. They can run a lineup of, like, Pat Bev, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marooks, and Serge Ibaka, and, like, just be like, yeah, fucking we're wing heaven right now. So try and keep up. We've got a bunch of versatile defenders who can match up anywhere across the board. Like they've got dirty stuff there. And I think again, like your boy Luke Kennard helping out this team on the bench, being that secondary ball handler that we know he can be. Every year he's gotten better as a facilitator. And I think that that'd be really good for that, because that's something that, again, we talk about the shooting of Luke Kennard a lot, but what the upgrade basically is over why can't I think of Shamwet is the fact like they're shooting basically interchangeable at this point, but the facilitation from a Luke Kennard is a big upgrade for them. And that was one of the biggest problems last year, was their lack of a true point guard, lack of a ball mover out there. So while Luke isn't a point guard, he is an additional ball mover on that offense, and he can help get other guys involved. So like, I really like the versatility of this lineup now. It's just, it comes down to like, I hate to say it, Paul George. Which Paul George are you going to be this year?
The thing I was going to throw out besides that is this roster done? Like, are they a finished piece? Because, like I mentioned, Retro, our resident Clipper fan in the Discord, put out the article early on this morning of, are the Clippers working on a trade? And the rumors still are, like I said, Lou Will and Pat Bev. And like Retro said, like some rumors are for Rozier or Dinwiddie, and I don't like the swap for Bev for any of those two. And later on he goes, like, I'd love to sign TJ McConnell or Glenn Robinson, but if we can trade for someone better. Should the Clippers be looking to move Lou Will or Pat Bev for like a Dinwiddie, for like a Scary Terry? Or should they just say, no, we can keep both of those and we don't have to go ahead and make that move?
I mean, depends. Are you getting Devontae Graham with it to make Scary Terry look good?
That's actually a great call.
No, they'll call Boston up and get Kemba.
You don't want Kemba.
No, you don't want Kemba.
Although, can you imagine how hateable this team would be with Kemba and Marooks on the same team? Like, that's the whole city of LA would just become the most hated place in the world of the NBA.
You got the LeBron haters hate you, New Orleans hate you on one side.
It's too much hate. Too much hate.
But Soapy, you were saying.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I could see him going for another person as well, because remind me who their bench point guard is?
Their bench point guard is it's either Pat Bev, Lou Will, or Reggie Jackson. Depending on who's starting. Pat Bev's starting, so it's Reggie Jackson.
You already know my feelings on Reggie, so I'm not even going to get into that whole can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
I think adding someone who could also defend as well, because obviously, as much as I love Luke Kennard, he ain't the best defender.
Nope.
It's one of those things where kind of maybe not like an insane two-way point guard, a guy who can at least facilitate enough to get people involved. Like, they don't have to be like an offensive weapon, because that's what Luke Kennard's there for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying a lot of people are going to start falling in love with Luke Kennard. Like, obviously, he gets all the shit about being drafted before Donovan Mitchell, but I'm just saying Luke Kennard would have been a 20-point per game scorer if he didn't get hurt. Let's be honest here. He was on a bad team. He was on pace. Luke Kennard makes his own fucking offense. All right, let's put some respect on the man. But I think being able to get someone who can facilitate that bench unit, I think it's going to be incredibly important. Like, obviously, if you want to just have Reggie be your backup point guard, he already has a connection with with Luke Kennard. Obviously, I'm just going to point out he also plays Luke Kennard plays with Reggie. I'm just saying, potentially move Reggie, but I think getting someone who can facilitate an offense and have that, at least your bench be comparable enough to, like, okay, your bench doesn't have to outscore people, but more or less like keep the lead that we get with our first unit. Yeah. I think that's the main thing that should be focused on. But also at the same time, does Luke Kennard start for this team?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Who knows?
What?
I think
maybe
I think you're a perfect second unit guy, because defensively, like you said, you don't have like him against the second unit. You're not gonna get the same amount of blow by and switches on him to get exploited. Like, I think he's on a better pace. Like, him and Lou Will as a scoring tandem in the second unit would be really nice. And again, Lou will pass. Kennard can pass well off ball, like as a secondary guy. So like, I mean, obviously you're going to have some defensive concerns, but again, the damage is kind of mitigated by being in that second unit, you would think. Or they could do like I said, the fun rotational stuff where like you can kind of mix and match with a lot of these guys.
Yeah. Also, Soapy, it doesn't also help. So Donovan Mitchell was drafted 1 spot after Luke Kennard. Do you know who was drafted 2 spots after Luke Kennard? 1 spot behind Donovan Mitchell.
Why do I feel like there's going to be another actual good player?
He is already a player who has been selected to at least 1 All-Star game, and we talked about him on the show already.
Oh, yeah, Bam
Adebayo. So right now, Luke Kennard. Not saying it was a bad pick for the Pistons.
And he's gotten better every year. He's gotten better every single year.
He scuffed Tyler Hero, just like Dave said.
Yep.
Dude, hell, who knows? He could be... Yeah, dude, hell, he could be this team's J.J. Redick. They basically brought J.J. Redick back.
Let's be honest. Who would you rather have, Markelle Fultz or Luke Kennard? There's also that question in that draft, too. Because Markelle Fultz isn't even... was left his initial team way before Luke Kennard did.
Fultz.
So, I'm trying to think if I have any more questions with this. Do you guys have anything that we didn't hit with the Clippers?
No, I mean, I guess my final question, if I do have one, is kind of like, with the additions they've made, I agree that I don't think this team is done. I think they will look to continue to improve. I was trying to find guards who might be available this season via trade, who would help them defensively. Some veteran guys out there, maybe like an Ish Smith, who could be a good addition to this team, depending on where
Cassius.
Also has connection to Luke Kennard. I'm just saying.
They do have a rapport. I would love to see what happens there, but I think they've got some good options out there. I was surprised they weren't in the running for DeLon Wright, but again, he wanted a little bit more money, so like understandable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
they were really in on Rondo, and the fact that Rondo went to Atlanta fucked with them.
Yeah, Rondo's a perfect fit, unfortunately, for them. But where do you think this team, like, if we're just, I know we're not officially power ranking until next week, but in your early thoughts, like, these additions, where just kind of put the Clippers at in your mind? Are they like that elite 1, 2, 3 in the West, or are they in that middle pack of the 3 through 6?
I think it's,
or are they at the bottom?
No, I think they're
6 through 8 range.
They're 2 through 4, or I'm sorry, they're 3 through 5. Only because Lakers and Blazers are locked top 1, 2 for me. I locked the Blazers in yesterday, Dave, so I got to keep that going. They're still a team that's going to fight at the top of the West. It's just, for me, come playoff time, that's when the question's on the table. What do you think, Soaps?
Yeah, I think they could also be a top team in the West once again. I think it does all come back down to, is Paul George going to actually play like a good basketball player again? Obviously, everyone made the joke about Pandemic P, but it's one of those things that I honestly think this team's entire success hinges on, can Paul George actually play good when he's needed to? Because, like, he can be a fantastic regular season player all you want. Congratulations, if you suck in the playoffs, no one cares. Yep.
That's your legacy.
Maybe Ty Lue is the missing piece. Maybe he's the coach to bring it all together.
No.
Maybe it was Glenn Rivers' fault that this team was the way they were.
He's Glenn.
That's right. Doc with the Clippers, Glenn with the 76ers. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because the Clippers were a team I was very high on last year. And when they lost to the Nuggets, I was shocked, because I thought we had LA locked in for the Western Conference Finals. So we're going to change things up because we've had a longer show, only one football topic, and it's just one I just want to get to after the Monday night game. However, before we do, quick Wet Boys, because we do have 2 of them. If you're unfamiliar to what Wet Boys are, these are the dampest of dudes, soggiest of shooters, the moistest of men, and sometimes even the mistiest of misses. These are our players of the day from the game before. Usually how it goes is Dave gives one, I give one, and then the patrons at patreon.com/MVP-vids also give one. I'm going to go to the patrons first, only because mine segues into the only football topic that we have. And Soapy, it's even a football topic that you can get involved with, because I know you're more on the NBA side than the NFL side. But the patrons, I called them out yesterday for not having a wet boy. They answered today, and it is Robert Woods of the L.A. Rams. The lone receiving touchdown, or not the lone one. He had There were other two, but he had the lone one between him and Cup. I forgot that my guy had 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, Robert Wood, great game. If you had him in fantasy, he got you mucho points, 12 points alone for the 12 receptions that he had. And my guy, I hope it switched like the Patreon one did. It did. Jared Goff, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 376 yards. Some would say a really good game. Some would also say that you won the game, you had a good game. Maybe the other quarterback on the other side should come shake your hand, be like, yo, bro, you had a really good game. And that leads us in, fellas, to our lone discussion. Tom Brady and handshakes. We had this discussion after the Bears beat the Buccaneers, and we're having it again. Everyone, it's taken the internet by storm, but I have a theory here. And Dave, I know you're cupping it because you're like, why are we talking about this? I have a theory, though, here, because I was listening to Good Morning Football this morning, and on the show, they linked it to, look at the guys that Brady has snubbed. Nick Foles, Jared Goff. 2 guys that he has played in the Super Bowl before. And they're like, well, maybe it's that thing that they were 2 Super Bowls. But like, I'm looking at it and I'm going, Nick Foles, I understand. He lost to Nick Foles. I could see a, no, fuck you, I'm still not over that kind of a situation. Is it right? No, get the fuck over it. It was a long time ago. But that stays with athletes, especially a competitor like Tom Brady. But Jared Goff, it's like, but you beat him. And technically, Goff wasn't even supposed to be there because of the pass interference call that was not called in the Rams-Saints game the week before, or 2 weeks before. So it's like, technically, like, what's your problem with Goff? And I think I figured it out. To me, I think it's a lack of respect because the only team that Brady has lost to, besides the Bears and the Rams this year, are the Saints. He's gone out and shook Drew Brees' hand after losing to the Saints twice this year, especially the last one where Jameis was eating them dubs after the game. I see that and I go, a guy like Drew Brees then, Brady respects, because Brady might see or does see Drew Brees as, you are a worthy opponent on my level, to where I'm almost on the side. This is Brady telling us he doesn't respect Nick Foles. He doesn't respect Jared Goff. You are not on my level. I lost to you. I am not going to shake your hand. Is it a shitty thing to do? Yeah. But I think it's more respect than losing the game. Dave, I'll go to you first because you did the whole cup in your hand in your forehead. What are your thoughts on this?
Now? Are you Skip fucking Bayless? Are you Stephen A. Smith?
My thing is, I had this because of the whole theory of the respect thing. It's something that people aren't even touching, and I wanted to get that out there.
Like, Tom Brady's the GOAT now, but he's petty as shit. Mm-hmm. And like, well, I think it's hilarious that like him not shaking hands with quarterbacks is a hilarious deal. And it's a big deal to some people, and that's fucking great to me because it's dumb and it's entertainment, and that's all sports are, is entertainment. So like, kudos for making this a topic. I think what's a funnier topic to me is the fact that his coach just hangs him out to fucking dry every presser after a loss. Like, Tom Brady gets no respect from fucking front office. I love it.
It just shows how much Bill Belichick protected him.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all my thoughts. So what do you think about this one?
I kind of err on the same side of Ricky a little bit, of where I think it is a little bit of like, and by a little bit I mean a good amount of pettiness, but I think it's also more of a like, him and Drew Brees have had so many battles over the years of where I think it does come out to the, even if you absolutely stomp my shit into the ground, I'm still going to respect you. I think it's one of those things of, I think it does really come down to respect. Because, for instance, I know he also shook Air Bear's hand, right?
Yep, he shook Air Bear's hand.
Maybe he sees Air Bear as the next great. Who knows? He may be looking at someone like Jared Goff and Nick Foles and be like, who are you?
I mean,
maybe. Who knows? He's petty.
I would agree. Like,
yeah, he may look at those guys and be like, in like 2 years, I won't even remember you.
Because the other quarterbacks he's played so far this year, he's played Teddy Two Gloves twice, because they played the Panthers twice, Drew Lock, Air Bear, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Danny Dimes, and then obviously Drew Brees, Nick Foles, and Jared Goff, the 4 losses. for the Chargers or for the Buccaneers. I was thinking of Air Bear. That's why I said Chargers. But like for me, I just like the reason I made this a topic, Dave, was like I said, like everywhere I saw on this they wanted the harp on the like even in Good Morning Football. They harped on the like I can't remember the guy's name, but he goes, you look at this and you're like, oh, we want to tell our kids that you don't do that. And he goes, I don't have to tell my kids not to do that. I just have to show them and go, that is not what a sportsman athlete does. That is not the right answer. And like, are you technically right? Yes. To where it's like, we like to think that athletes are sportsman-like and you go out there and you shake your hand. Like
you're putting them on a pedestal.
I mean, technically, like it doesn't take that much to go out and shake a fucking hand. That's my thing. But like, the more I thought about it, I was like, look at who they are and look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady, because he's so petty, it doesn't shock me that he would look at someone and go, you're not even worth my fucking time. Have you seen me? Have you seen my hot wife? Like, you ain't worth my time, Jared Goff. And I will say, poor Jared Goff, because it was the funniest thing to me watching him shake like other Bucks hands. And then when he gets to the end of the line, he like turns around like a lost puppy. Like, where's Tommy? Where's TB? Where is he? Should Tom Brady have gone out there and done it? Yeah. But more so I was thinking the little theory of, I just don't think Tom Brady respects Jared Goff. But that's going to do it for today's show. What?
I just don't Tom, like, again, the unwritten rules of football. Like, it's not as bad as baseball. Thank fuck.
I don't think it's an unwritten rule. I think it's more of a sportsman thing.
Like, I can't even imagine what it feels like to be a baseball player living under those expectations.
Is this really an unwritten rule, or is this just like we expect people to be friendly?
To ever live.
What?
And Tom Brady is the greatest football player to ever live. And if he doesn't feel like shaking your hand, fucking deal with it. Like, that's where I'm at. I think that you being like, well, that's a stern, wag of the finger at Tom Brady for not being a good sportsman.
Well, he's
Who knows
not.
what Tom Brady was going through at that point? Like, maybe Tom Brady was like, man, I got to take a fucking shit. I got a heater coming out the back end, and if I don't get my ass in that locker room, it's going to be a real bad day for me. Or maybe I'm in a pissed off mood because my offensive line got ran the fuck over all game, and this guy's got 8 seconds of pocket time every snap because for whatever reason, our team couldn't get to him. And they low-key have a really good defense. I don't know what was the deal with there. Like, I don't know. It's just the number of factors could be going on there. We don't know what's going on inside Tom's head, but I think people just put athletes on pedestals and want to create drama around them. Just respect the fact that he's the greatest football player of all time.
No.
And he doesn't have to do what you think he has to do.
All I will say is this, Dave, and this is my last part on it, is if it is true that Tom Brady is, when you were like I only have this much pocket time and he's got that much pocket time, I've got 5 fucking letters for him. SAWFT, you soft. You soft.
Have you seen Tom Brady?
No, I know, but like,
he's old and he is at the end of his legendary career.
That's just what, like, it doesn't take, maybe it's just me, it doesn't take a lot to basically, you can be pissed off at your O-line to suck it up, shake a guy's fucking hand. It's the littlest thing in the world. Littlest thing in the world.
Why does Tom Brady shaking another man's hand affect you personally?
I mean, no, it's just an overall thing of being a good human being. I would say it to anybody. Like,
does it make him a lesser person because he didn't shake a hand?
A little bit. It shows that to me, it comes off as being unsportsmanlike.
It shows that he's mortal and he shouldn't be put on a pedestal like I keep fucking preaching for the last decade.
So I'm not getting into it. This argument will go on for hours.
It will.
The fact is, it's the littlest thing to do. Tom Brady, you just look like an asshole. That's what it looks like, and that's just how I see it. But that's going to do it for MVP Sports Live today. Remember, if you're not in the greatest community on the internet, get into the MVP Discord right now. Link down below, or !Discord gets you that link in the Twitch chat right now. You can also support us at patreon.com/MVPvids. Yet again, link down below, or !Patreon gets you that link. Thank you to Pat Hill and Philly Sean, our Patreon sponsors. We're on Twitch every Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/MVPvids, but we're also on YouTube at MVP Sports. So go ahead, follow us and sub at both places so you're getting everything for MVP. Soaps, I want to thank you coming in, talking everything with us today. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, it's been okay.
So, yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's better than sleeping,
we didn't
right?
give much of a chance to talk about it. You just gotta get out there and fucking yell at us.
Yeah, you just gotta
cut in the conversation and yell.
You just gotta. That's what it is. We're like fucking like we're the talkers at the dinner table, and if you're not gonna come in and say something, we'll just talk for days.
We're out of practice with the 3-man show. Let's be honest. It's been a bit.
Let's be honest though, Sean wasn't afraid.
Conversation. That was the problem.
What?
Sean was the one who directed conversation between you and me.
Yeah, I mean,
you would just gab all day.
Yeah, we would just gab all day. Maybe it's a you and me problem, Dave. Maybe that's it. But Soaps, I'm glad you came on. I loved having you on. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys for everything that you do. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
He said it.